I recently had a CAC score done. A CAC score is the amount of calcification in the arteries around your heart. It wasn't my doctor who prescribed this test for me. It was rather me who asked the doctor, could she organise for me to have a CAC score done? I was very interested to know. Even though it cost me 300 Australian dollars because it's not covered by our Medicare service here, I still wanted to go ahead and to get this test done. I wanted to know the condition of my heart and the arteries around my heart. The reason for this was that I have a strong family history of heart disease. I have both of my parents who died with heart disease, and I have a brother who has had 2 heart attacks, and I have another brother who's had a couple of strokes. So I'm very interested in the topic, and I wanted to know my level of risk. And in my way of understanding, the only way I could really get a bit of an understanding of this was to have a CAC test. Well, the test came back, and the score that I was given was, wait for it, it was on the thumbnail, so you already know, it was 1,390, which is dangerously high. I mean, it is really high. My wife also had a CAC test done. She's 5 years older than me, and hers came back 0. So I was immediately quite anxious about my CAC score and what this meant. It meant that I was in a fairly high level of risk. Not only did I have strong family history, but now I had a CAC score that was literally off the charts. So my doctor suggested I should have a chat to a cardiologist and get an opinion on what might be the most appropriate way forward for my own heart health. And so I agreed. So I went off to see the cardiologist, and the cardiologist said, well, you've got 3 red flags, not only your CAC and your family history, you've also got very high LDL, and that's a red flag also. Now, for those of us on Carnivore, we understand that it is very common for our LDL to go up on the carnivore diet. And there's been some good explanation by doctors who explain that to us as to why our LDL goes up so high on a carnivore diet. It is very common, and it was certainly my experience. The cardiologist prescribed 2 things. First of all, he suggested I go on a statin. Now, carnivores are very familiar with statins, as are most people today. They're the most commonly prescribed drugs, and they get a lot of bad press in the carnivore space. So I was a little bit hesitant about the statins. The cardiologist went on to explain that he is very much anti-statin in most cases, and his conservative estimate was that 80% of people who are prescribed statins should never have been prescribed them in the first place. However, with my case, he recommended that I do go onto a statin. He also recommended that I have a stress test. So I went and had my stress test. It was only today, in fact. I've only just been home a short time from the private hospital where I had to go for my stress test. And if you know that procedure, they put some little readers on your chest, and they take some pictures of your heart, and then they put you on a treadmill and give you a thorough workout where they slowly increase the base, where they slowly increase the speed of the treadmill and also the grade that you're going up. And it had 5 levels of difficulty, and they said that I could quit at any time. And I got to level 4, and they asked me if I wanted to quit, and I said, no, I'm good. So I went all the way to level 5 and completed the stress test without too much difficulty at all, although I was puffing a bit and my heart was pumping. So I don't know the result of that yet. I've got to go back and see the cardiologist to get the official report. But I was very glad that I was able to do the stress test without too much exertion, and I was able to complete the test. So I see that as a good sign, although I'll know more when I get the results of that test. At my age, I'm 68, I've decided that my heart health is extremely important to me. for all the reasons that I've just outlined, particularly my family history. And I have resolved that I will do absolutely anything I can, anything humanly possible, to lower my risk of a heart attack. You see, I asked the cardiologist, can a CAC score be reversed? Can it be reduced? And he said there is anecdotal cases of that happening, but he said it is extremely rare. But he said the much better question to ask is, can I do anything to reduce my risk of a heart attack? And he said on that question, absolutely yes, you can. And so I was interested. It gave me something that I could do. It kind of empowered me, if you like. And so I began to research and to ask questions and to read on what you might do if you wanted to lower your risk of a heart attack. Now, my health journey up to this point, for those of you that may not know, if you haven't watched my earlier videos, I went on the carnivore diet almost 12 months ago. I lost about 23 kilos of weight, or about 45, 47 pounds, somewhere there. I reversed fatty liver. I lowered my insulin. I stabilized my blood sugar. My triglycerides went down. My HDL went up. My CRP, my inflammation markers, all went down. They've still got a little way to go. So I had been fairly pleased with my progress. So I began to list all of the things you can do to lower your risk of a heart attack. And quite incidentally, the doctor thought that these same things would reduce my LDL, which he seemed very worried about. I think he was a tad more worried about it than I am, but because he was worried, I took it on board. So I came up with a list of things that I learned from my research on lowering my risk of a heart attack, and I'll give them to you. Number one was to increase my omega-3s, particularly from fatty fish, the sardines and the kippers and those very oily fatty fish. And I have made an attempt to do that, not just the fatty fish, but I've been eating more fish in general. And I have been pretty diligent at that. So I can put a tick on that one. I'm doing that. The second one was to get rid of seed oils, because they are directly responsible for worsening your risk of heart attack. And I have to say, I can put a tick on that one very easily, because I have not used any seed oils since I started carnivore. The only time I might possibly have been subject to them is when I've gone out for a meal, but even then I'm pretty careful, and I ask questions at the restaurant about what's in their cooking and what do they cook with. So I'm pretty careful about seed oils, so I can tick that one off. Number 3 was exercise. Well, I think I can also tick that one off, because I have been doing quite a bit of walking. I go canoeing pretty often. I'm now doing 10 minutes fairly aerobic exercise on the rebounder every morning. It really gets my heart pumping. I'm doing weight lifts. I'm just doing all I can with exercise. I'm about to head off just next week for another canoe trip where we'll be paddling for about 5 hours a day and camping on the side of the river. So I count that as exercise. So I think I'm doing fairly well on the exercise. So I'm giving myself a tick there. The next way to reduce your risk of a heart attack is to stop smoking. Well, I've never smoked, so I can tick that one off too. And then it says another marker of reducing your risk would be to get rid of alcohol. And I haven't had any alcohol really for nearly 12 months now since I started on carnivore. So I'm doing rather well. I'm ticking that one off as well. We go down the list and it says to manage stress. Well, I think I'm doing all right there too. I start my day off, as some of you might know, by walking barefoot in the garden at sunrise, and just a period of gratitude and meditation. I do a cold bath, and I've found that tremendously helpful and tremendously stimulating, and it just seems to lower my stress levels. I know I feel fantastic. It's early days for that, but I'm just enjoying those ice baths immensely. Another one was to improve your sleep quality. Well, when I started looking into the earthing and grounding, I actually got myself some grounding sheets to put on my bed at night. And they've been on there now for about a month. And I'd have to say that since putting that grounding sheet on, my sleep has improved quite dramatically. I'm now sleeping pretty solid 8 hours a night without waking up. And this is so much better than what I used to do. Not only am I sleeping longer and without breaks through the night, but when I wake up, I feel, it's hard to put a quantity on this, but I just feel I've slept a whole lot better than what I normally do. It's a deeper, more satisfying sleep, and I wake up feeling great. So I'm putting a tick on sleep. There's just 2 more things on my list that I can share with you for reducing risk of a heart attack. One is to increase my vitamin D. On my last blood test, my vitamin D levels were down from what they should be. So I've been consciously getting more sun each day, and also I've been supplementing with vitamin D capsules. I'll only do that till I get my next blood test and see that my vitamin D is back up where it should be. So that's what I've been doing there. And the last one I read as I did my research on this is a supplement called berberine. And this is a supplement that is said to be very beneficial for heart health. Some of the doctors and the researchers I read compared berberine with the drug metformin in its effectiveness. And I decided that I would get myself some berberine, and I've been taking that regularly just for a few days now. It's something I've just started. Oh, the other one I missed on my list is intermittent fasting is meant to help reduce risk of a heart attack. And I'd have to say I've been doing this one pretty well too, because we just eat 2 meals a day, one at about 9 o'clock and one about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And that means we're fasting for about 18 hours pretty regularly. Not because we made any big decision to intermittent fast for that time every day. Just by the way it worked out, we just weren't hungry after 2 meals and felt quite satisfied. So look, there you go. There's some of the things that I've found out I can do that are within my power to do. And as I say, most of them I felt pretty confident I could tick off straight away. But I'm going to double down on all of those things. I want to reduce my risk. I don't want to have a heart attack. I don't want to be another statistic. I know that heart disease is the biggest killer in the land and probably in the world. And so I'm pretty careful. I'm taking this pretty seriously, and so should all of us. So what this will mean, I'm going back to see my cardiologist in just a couple of weeks' time, and he will talk about the results of my stress test, and he'll probably ask if I've started my statins, and I'll tell him no, not yet. I'm still researching and looking into that and seeing if I can get a desirable result with all the changes that I've made in my life and diet. So look, anyway, I just wanted to share that with you. This video will obviously need an update when I get back to the cardiologist, and I'll bring that update when that happens. But look, thank you for listening today. If you missed my recent video where I talked about the benefits of earthing and how it works and how it's helped me, I will leave a link for it above. I would also invite you to join our Facebook group, the Carnivore Pensioner, and I will see you on the next video. And until then, keep telling your story.